What you're looking at right now is some ground where we've disced, we've chiseled, and you look at those great big clumps that we've got out there. That's one of the reasons why I kind of like doing some strip till on our farm. We don't have those big clumps to deal with when we come along with the planter. We just go out there, make a nice little seed bed, and we're done.
Well, that's great in a perfect world, Brian. The problem is, what if you don't get all that done in the fall? Because in the spring, the soil just acts totally different. When snow melts away, it's just a different animal than it is in the fall.
Yep, so today we wanted to talk about strip till just a little bit. Fall versus spring, shanks versus coulters. So ideally, here's what we like. We like to do strip till in the fall. I don't care if we do it early or late, it's not a big deal. We're generally just putting down P and K, but if we were also putting nitrogen down at the same time, then I'd want to do it relatively late in the fall. We like doing it with a shank because with P and K, I don't want to have that P and K in the top 2 or 3 inches of soil. We used to do that all the time when we broadcast spread that P and K. I want to get that P and K down where I really need it, 8 to 10 inches deep down in the soil.
Well, it sounds like you had a great fall then this year, because we had 40 and 50 degree temperatures all the way up till the end of November, and you could actually get out in the field and get stuff done if you got the corn off. But in the spring, by the time the soil is fit to do all those things, we're planting already.
Yep, so if you're gonna go out in the spring, especially with a shank going 8 or 9 inches deep, you know what, for us, the frost last year never even came out of the ground until we had 2/3 of our corn planted. So if we were gonna strip till before we were gonna plant the corn, we would have had to wait a long time. So that just isn't going to work in a lot of cases. Now, if you want to go out there with a coulter strip till type machine, you can certainly do that. But what's going to happen with that coulter machine, yeah, it'll make a nice seed bed. Everything should work fine if you're using a coulter strip till machine. The only problem I've got with that is now your P and K is going to be in the top 2 to 4 inches of soil. Well, that's, again, what we've always done. And I'll bet you right now, if you soil test on your farm and you soil test every 2 inches down, I'll bet that top 4 inches of soil holds about 90% of your nutrients. And we would like to get more down a little deeper in the soil to lead the roots down. You'll get better overall yield in the long term if you do that.
Well, what you end up with when you get all those nutrients in just the top few inches, when it dries out in the summer, your roots can't pull it out of the soil. There isn't enough moisture there in those top few inches if you're in the western corn belt or you're in an area where you just are fairly dry during the summer. So we like to put them a little deeper where the soil stays moist and where those roots can go down after the nutrients and the water. It works out great. But I love your comment that you threw in there about frost. Just for anybody that says, oh, it's easy farming in South Dakota. No, South is just part of our name. We don't really feel like we're down south most of the year.
Well, with that frost coming out late, you know, it's not a real big deal if, let's say you do have a coulter strip till machine and you have 2 people in your farm operation. But if you're the only person and you're supposed to do both the strip tilling and the planting, that's probably not going to happen in the spring realistically.
Well, there just aren't enough days sometimes. No. But I do think strip till can still work. If you don't have a good seed bed set, you've got to do something out there. And if you can get your nutrients even 2 to 4 inches down, well, that's a lot better than leaving them on top.
Yeah, and the thing is, we don't like having these great big clumps like in this field and bringing the disc out in the spring, because when you bring that disc out in the spring, you're just asking for compaction problems. I can just tell you on our own farm, when we've done that, every time we've done it in the past, every time I regret it. So I just don't want to have to bring that disc out in the spring. Strip till's not a bad choice, but again, if you're going to wait until you can get out there with a shank strip till machine, probably going to be after you were able to really start planting.
So don't misunderstand. We do like strip till and we do like it with the shank, especially in the fall. If we get stuck doing some strip till in the spring and ground that we couldn't get worked and couldn't get our fertilizer applied on, we really prefer using coulters when we get to spring applications.
Well, another thing we prefer is having all our weeds under control, especially our weed of the week. We'll tell you how to stop it on your farm coming up later in the show.